strap in and get ready for Renee Roland, our guest. So welcome, Renee. How's it going?
Well, thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Miss Cindy, for having me.
Salty Renee.
Yes, that's funny, salty. I'm sugar in the raw, that's all.
There you go. Salt is for the flavor, though. There's some scripture on that. But anyway, so Renee, if you can, just kind of give us, we had a chance to do some pre-production work today and talk about, you've just had a career in the film, have had and continue to have a career in the film industry on various levels, and seemed like a good chunk of that ascended into being a film producer. And I know you're working on some projects now that are about ready to come into fruition. And you and I have talked about celebrities that you've known at very close range, and even defended the integrity of one of them. And so anyway, if you could just kind of walk us through a little bit of your experience in the industry, and then some of your observations why there'd be some folks that may crucially need a life coach in their lives.
Well, I'd like to start out saying that what you guys are offering is so important. I mean, I'd call it God's work, because what I've seen in the industry, and I started out doing martial arts, like in front of the camera and being an assistant. Like, I would do anything, wardrobe, whatever. I started with Roger Corman's he did 26 little low-budget movies a year, and I really sank my teeth in and learned all the areas of the industry. And then as an actress, I was acting when I was younger, and I was like, no, I'm really good at producing, and so I went out and raised my own funds. And
nice.
I started producing my own films. And then Steven Seagal's company bought one when it was Seagal Nassau. Lionsgate have bought 2 of them. And they're not big films, but I do really good quality productions. And I just got a new contract for full financing and worldwide distribution on a new film called Off the Leash, which is a female-driven buddy comedy. And we're actually looking for celebrity names now, and we're ready to make offers. So that just started.
Nice.
This very week. So
good for you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been raising my son for 10 years and took a little break, and so I really love to be back at work. But I wanted to say that what you're doing is necessary in the sense that what I've known now, I do have celebrity friends that are really down to earth. But what I've seen is when people get famous young or quickly, that it gets overwhelming, and then sometimes people indulge, and I believe it's a spiritual thing. I really do. I think it comes from a hole in their spirit that they're trying to fill with pleasure and indulgence. And what you guys are doing, because I've always said, celebrities don't need more yes people around them, okay? But they need structure. They need help. They're human beings, and they're overwhelmed, but they're all surrounded by yes people, friends that they're afraid of. I'm not lumping everybody together. I'm just making a statement about I've seen it. I've seen it happen. Is that the friends are scared to make their celebrity friend mad because they're going to lose their famous friend. Mm-hmm. They don't want to tell them, no, you really shouldn't shoot heroin and smoke crack with those 7 hookers for 3 days. You really shouldn't do that, But they indulge. Now, I just saw this with Prince, God bless his soul. He didn't have people saying no to him. And when they did say no, he'd fire them or get rid of them, because, a sick mind doesn't know it's sick.
Exactly. Yeah. The truth. You're talking about people, pushing somebody to the edge and being willing to take them and tell them the truth. Yeah.
And you guys would be the person that's willing to let them be mad and even hate you if necessary to save their lives. And I'm not talking just about physical death here, which I lost so many people. Corey Haim lived with me before his death. He was my friend.
Oh.
And we raised, there were some celebrities that helped me. raised the money to pay for his Betty Ford, but in 3 days he was kicked out. He just would not work with them. And the problem is sometimes people get special treatment, and that special treatment is actually the wrong treatment. They need the standard of treatment, because that's why it's the standard, because it's the best.
Right, right.
You can't, so what you guys would do is literally save lives, not just physical lives. But I know I've seen the desperation that happens, and my heart breaks for them. I know how alone they must, just seeing what Corey went through, how alone they must feel, really. I mean, who's really their friend? Who's really caring about them? Because there's always ulterior motives that people look at. What you guys would do is they would know that what you're doing is for them, to
it's
save
just for them,
to help them. Yes.
It's like being totally present for them. It's all about them. And I love what you're saying, because a celebrity is just a person. It's a person who has needs, who has issues or problems. And, the fact that they have a lot of stress and get overwhelmed and have to be on, maybe travel a lot, be on the, I mean, it's huge, because I've worked with celebrities too, the huge pressure they're under, and everybody is putting them in this separate kind of category and on a pedestal, and not realizing that they have all the same stuff everybody has, and they need somebody to just be there and listen and be that like you're saying, that objective voice.
Tell them the hard thing.
Right.
The hard things.
Push them right up to the edge of the cliff, Bruce. Right?
Yeah. Now, one of the things you mentioned is that these celebrities, they'll believe their own press, and they'll kind of get to the top and be right, and just talk about that journey a little bit. Yeah.
What this is what I've seen, especially with like the ones that get famous really quickly, is they start. This is what happened with Corey. I saw, and he was just like a little kid, man. He was still 14. It just never, I just remember looking at his face like he was still a child. Like his growth, his emotional growth had stunted somehow. And, because, tutors aren't going to force him to do his schoolwork. They're not going to, you know what I mean? It's like and what happened is he started to believe, and I think this happens a lot. Luckily, a lot of the more mature celebrities that have time under the belt don't validate their self-worth based on their last project or based on what people say or think about them. And what I've seen is many of them will believe the good press. They believe the good press about themselves, but here's the problem. If that's building their self-esteem and that is the standard by which they validate themselves, what happens when that press is bad?
Right.
Where is the self-worth? Where is the core? Because nobody tells you that when you get to the top, there's nothing there. There's nothing. And you're like, really? Like, I remember having a moment of I just gotten a huge check. I just got everything I wanted. And I was like, now what? Mm-hmm. Like, and so you seek, and I feel this is, and forgive me if I offend anybody with this, but I feel like they're filling something that a spiritual need that I believe only God can fill. And, I don't want to offend anybody with my faith, but I really believe that the gospel of God loving us and giving us the free gift of eternal life through the death, burial, and resurrection of his Son, that allows the Holy Spirit to live and dwell within a person, and it fills that space. You see, people have to have a means that gives them purpose and validate that they're loved, and just for who they are, not for their performance, not for that they have a sense of self-worth and purpose outside of their career. That who you are is not what you do. Who you are,
right.
But
how you show up,
But
and
that's
really,
just it. I was going to say, that's just it. They're only as good as their last project, right?
Yeah, who can live like that?
Well, and that, that crosses over into a lot of driven professional lives too.
Oh yeah, not just
the drive. Right, the drive drives you, and then you get there, and it's like, now what?
You guys would be great for, CEOs and stuff.
Right, because it's the same thing. They're chasing. People are chasing and doing and trying to fill themselves up with, something that validates them and they can't just trust that if I just sit here,
you nailed it.
That something's going to take care of me. Like if I take a break and take an afternoon nap, that my world's not going to fall apart because I'm not checking off the to-do list.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's not going to fall apart because you take a vacation, but there's lots of people that won't give themselves permission to take a vacation. You know what I mean?
Sandy, you nailed it when you said they're doing and chasing, but they're never being. They're never just being. It's just go, 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 go. And I really think it really is all a spiritual issue. I think people have to have something that is bigger than them, and you guys could maybe balance that out for them. Let them
and I think it's
some
trust.
Priorities.
I think it's about trust too, nothing to trust.
Absolutely.
So I only got me. And if I don't perform and I don't succeed and I don't get to the next level, then the ladder's, it's just going to fall out underneath me. So it has a lot to do with trust.
Well, people like you and Bruce, see, you could be this rock of foundation because you can look objectively. They know that you are there specifically for their best interest. For their health,
absolutely.
Emotional, spiritual, mentally, financially, you're there for their health because it all comes down to that core. All the other successes are all revolved around a person's inner worth. And, what you guys would be so valuable for is that, first of all, like you said, the trust would be in place because you have no ulterior motive. What is your motive? It's your job. You're doing and you're good at your job. Your motive isn't, because you want a celebrity buddy to, show off at the clubs. It's because you're there, you're good at your job, and you want to save their lives. And not just save their lives, but make their lives more abundant.
Right.
Give them more fulfillment so that maybe they don't have to chase and do as much to still feel like they're validated,
And whole, yes.
And whole, that's right. I think what you guys do is really underrated, and I think a lot of industries could use this. I think that celebrities actually have a little bit different situation because of the fame and then the distrust, the ulterior motives and all the stuff that comes with it.
Well, and I think
there's a level.
Yeah, I think the trust thing with coaching, the level of confidentiality and discretion is so solid, and I think it's something worth mentioning that you've brought it up is, any new client I have, they have to understand. It's not just who I am personally and my friends and my family know that, but professionally you set that tone, and I think
it's like
that's
a doctor-patient, right?
Totally.
Same kind of thing.
You have to honor somebody, you know what I mean? It's their personal life and you show up for them and it's all about discretion and confidentiality. I think it's so important, so important.
It really is. And I think a lot of people, and Bruce, you actually had doctor patients for 30 years, didn't you?
Yeah.
Like that kind of relationship.
But this is, like you said, the reason why it's kind of a pet fascination of mine working with the CEOs or working with celebrities is because of this problem that they cannot come to the end of themselves. Many of the people that I coach, they cannot get to the end of themselves. It's usually something dark and tragic that gets them to the place that they're going to do something. Like a lot of men don't pull out the owner's manual of the car until the car breaks down or it's on the side of the road.
Right.
So
right.
It's that type of thing, and so goes with these kind of higher spirited individuals. Call it what you will, call it narcissism, call it this, call it that, whatever. But at the end of the day, right, the coach. And I guess I will step in here and let's talk about a little bit of technique and methodology in here, in that coach comes in there and helps this person identify those gaps in their lives, those feelings. The first pass would be not to conduct an assessment, but to get some sort of either admission or identification of what those gaps are. Yeah, what are those gaps in your life, and what are you doing to fill those gaps? Are you self-medicating with booze, drugs, sex, toadies, sycophants, and on the Hollywood story goes-ish, and then kind of working, but it's interesting, man. It's an interesting dance, because it's not like therapy, and it's not like, and I know what you're saying. They need somebody who won't back down, who isn't a toady or a yes person, but will hold the line.
The line, absolutely.
And that's
actually
right.
The fun part of coaching is when you get somebody's trust and you work with them, and then you say, wait. This is what I just heard you say. Did you hear this? And then you call them on it, and then you say, okay, can I hold you accountable to do this or to do that? It's really about walking with them, but not letting them off the hook. And then they learn to appreciate that, because somebody's putting their tootsies to the fire, and they need that. Everybody needs that.
Accountability was important, what you just said. That's the thing. So important. Making them account. Here's the thing, like Bruce was just saying, that they kind of have to come to the edge of the cliff. I think he said edge of the cliff. He said you got to come to the end of yourself. Well, what I've seen is that when you don't have fame and money and stuff to kind of medicate yourself, you end up quicker falling on your face. And then once you fall, you can get up. But see, the problem is they never completely tip over. They get halfway there, and then somebody picks them back up and fixes everything, and then they almost fall to their, no, we're not going to let you fall. Okay, sometimes you've got to let the kid fall. You got to let your children stumble and fall on their face. It's the same thing. But I would think when you're coaching someone, you would have to let them, and now if they can't get there through the natural circumstances of their behavior, whatever that is, then you guys could actually bring them to it by acknowledging the behaviors and whatever they're using to fix that hole, whatever it is that the core root of what is driving these. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes,
you being there can kind of force them, like you said, be accountable, because they might not have the extreme, falling down your life, your life is like over kind of revelation, going to the top of Mount Perspective, which, by the way, does have something on the top of it. If they can get to that place, but they really won't without help, because there's too many things fixing. And I thought it was interesting. There's that Van Tool has a song, and one of the lyrics is, and I just love it, is overstimulation has numbed me. Boredom's not a burden anyone should bear.
Wow.
And I think that people that can't get enough of it. They have to get a little bit. Now, I'm not talking about the celebrities in general. I'm talking about human beings. They have to get a little bit sicker sexually. They got a little bit more dope. They got to get a little bit more crazy. They got to have a little bit more adrenaline. And the problem is a never-ending cesspool of where it's going to take you, because you're looking, and then when the pleasurable things don't become pleasurable anymore, people lose hope. They're not in despair because they're tired of the pain. They're in despair because they're tired of the pleasure. And when pleasure stops being something that you can even enjoy, that's when life's over.
It's
pain gives you something to fight through.
When you were talking, that is very, very well said. I think one of the things about coaching, it's almost like, when you can't sit still to meditate, right? A coaching conversation is so right here, right now, and you're so present with the client that the skill set itself, the questioning, the probing questions, sometimes can get the awakening and the aha moments as you get them to drill down, because instead of somebody giving them the answers, which is what people do, they have to find the answer. And sometimes those moments can be so crystal clear of something they've never seen before that can really get some strong movement forward for people. So the whole coaching conversation is almost standing still. Do you feel like that, Bruce? Sometimes you're just like standing still with somebody?
Oh, Yes,
like you're so
do.
present is what I'm saying.
So here, let's go on that train a little bit. So actually, I'm kind of, standing still with one of my coachees right now. It's kind of this interesting thing, and I'm fading back, and then I'm like, hey, I noticed that. Right, seems like we're taking a pause here, a natural break here. How do you want to spend your time? What's the best way to spend this time? Where do you see this going? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And again, stepping back and letting person them identify that stuckness or the mechanism behind that, and so anyway, that I think that's going to happen, and it happens even in good coaching.
I think you get they get a lot of clarity just through the coaching questions.
When did you guys actually come in? Like, if would there have to be a crisis, or just someone determines that, or an agent calls you and says, he's not focused, or, she's not on her game, she's dealing with some stuff, we need some help to get stuff organized. When is it that you come in? Is it always a crisis, or sometimes
No, not always. But a lot of times, they'll call in when they see that somebody is not, is slipping, and the production isn't there or the performance isn't there. But a lot of people reach out for coaching because they feel a connection to you and they feel like they can trust you and they want to get some work done, meaning they may be feeling scattered or overwhelmed or not connected, and they're feeling stuck. Like I always call it, they're like up to their ankles in quicksand. They just can't move, and they recognize they're in the myrrh. They can't move, and they call a coach to help them get unstuck. That's when I have people pick up the phone and call me.
Kind of just like paralyzed. Like
they're just kind of like you're stuck, but you're spinning. That emotion, spinning and scattered.
Oh, wow.
But they're not getting, their feet can't move, and
right.
Yeah, it's a terrible place to be, and I try to make light of it, but because I totally understand, and that's the point at which they know they need some support. It's really, we partner to support them, to get some movement. And some people just want accountability. They just I just got off the phone with somebody. She said, I got to call you when I get back. She's traveling. I got to get this together. And, getting in line with a coach is just getting it done quicker. You're partnering, you just get the work done because you're going to talk to them the following week and you're going to report what you did. You know what I mean? So it is an accountability factor that really helps people push things forward.
And with
Cindy, I wish Corey would have had somebody like you guys. A friend can try, but he needed exactly what you guys offer. He just got his way to his own destruction. Right. Somebody needed to, I tried, but I couldn't make him. He'd still doctor shop and just take so many Valium and I was so sad. He was just a sweet boy, and he was so broken and it's a perpetual circle here where, he gets addicted and then he can't get work because they can't get insured, but then he can't, it's just a vicious circle,
Right.
And if he would have had people like you when it started early, or even let him fall down, and have some consequences. If he would have had someone like you, his mother adored him. She lived for that boy. She was a good mom. This is not saying anyone failed here. It's that it's a disease of addiction.
Right, right.
But the core of it is because you got to remember when they use, they're clean and sober when they decide to use. So something's broken in the brain, you see, because they're not loaded before they make a bad decision. They're making the bad decision while they're sober to do this, So if he would have had someone that would have said, no, we're going to stick to this, and we need to get through whatever these hidden, because he had issues, of stuff that happened in his career and everything, and he needed that. He needed to work through these things so he didn't have to medicate himself and not think about it.
Right,
and the less fame he had, he'd go out and people would adore him. They loved him because it's Corey Haim. They loved him, but he couldn't get a gig, And
the lack of productivity.
Reminder.
I think a lot of times people, like you're just trying to block out, go to sleep, numb out, and you're not getting. And so what happens is, just like you're saying, he can't get work. You're not getting the feeling of being productive and purposeful, which is such an important thing to the human spirit, that the more pills you take, the less productive you are, the less purposeful you are, and the more you just want to block it out because then you're not feeling good about what you're doing day to day.
You said that perfectly.
And I really liked what you said about. I really think that was a beautiful thing to acknowledge his mother as a good mother, because I had a friend one time say to me when her son got in trouble and had to go to rehab, that mental illness and addiction has nothing to do with good parenting. And there is that misconception that if your child runs into that it's because of your parenting. Has nothing to do with parenting. It has to do, I believe, with genetics, quite frankly, and a few, maybe.
I think it's both. I think it's genetics and social conditioning and trauma. I think it's all of it, But you're right. I don't think it's a parent. I mean, you get to the point where you grow and you make your decisions.
Right. That's right. Everybody has free will to make choices, and at the end of the day, thought always precedes action. What you're thinking precipitates what you're feeling, and it precipitates what you do in terms of behavior. And I think as coaches, now for my coaching area, mine is a little bit different than the average bear, in that I'm kind of the problem guy. There's some sort of a problem has happened. That means that let's say Sony or Paramount calls me to say, we have a talent here, we have an asset here that is currently struggling with problem X. They are in a position right now that they cannot go down for a rehab experience, or they can't be off the grid because we need them to be on the set. We need them to be working and functioning and shooting and doing their lines and doing what they need to be doing in furtherance of our production company, right? And so we need you to be the training wheels, the oil on the gears, etc. Right? Like we've talked about, folks like Matthew Perry and Lindsay Lohan and Owen Wilson and others, right? That just had needed a close range coaching companion experience to get them through the day.
You made a brilliant point. Here's something else. What you were just talking about with the studios or whatever company contacting you, right, for this problem. Here's the thing. When a film begins production and they're halfway through shooting, right, they can't afford to lose the star in the middle of it. So what also contributes or exacerbates the problem sometimes is the studio or whoever, the producers or whoever, will go ahead and feed whatever that star needs. Not what he needs, but what he wants.
Right.
What I'm saying?
But that's
whatever
totally
it is
contrary.
that gets them going. But you guys, it's good to offer them. That's my point. It's good to offer the studios and the producers an option like you guys. Because you're not, you're saving them millions of dollars too. Like Bruce was saying, it's flat out. They're assets. We know that.
Yeah. Don't even call them.
Absolutely. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Their talent is.
Right. They don't give them a human name. They don't give them a human name. They don't give them Joe, Bob. They're just a freaking
and they don't care ultimately
in furtherance of our financial gain. Also,
that's right.
Also, if on some of these sets that aren't, and these aren't bootleg, non-union type of gigs. Let's say it's a full-on, you know what I'm saying? There's union people, set people there. If those union people call foul and say, whoa, this is an unsafe set, such and such is high as F on cocaine, this, that, and it makes this set a dangerous set per the union master agreement. Guess what? I mean, right? You're that's it. You're boy howdy. Everything shuts down, and once again, now not only do you have financial woes, but now you got union versus other woes. Now,
and you can't fix it. You can't.
Well,
because
it's hard.
They can't look different. they have
it's
to,
hard to unf something that gets effed. Yeah, I mean, it makes it very difficult to unwind, and it's a very sensitive issue. So at the end of the day, in a cost-benefit analysis, is it cheaper to hire this person for $70,000 a month to keep this going? And maybe this person might go into rehab at the end of it, and maybe this person might get some insight. You bet. They'll roll the dice, and they'll throw down for that all day long. So
the Screen Actors Guild needs to be in touch with you guys so that when they see these things, they have somebody they can call. I'd contact the unions. You know? Well, guys usually people are on their best behavior when the union's coming.
Well, yeah.
Right.
But it's good to get in touch, because sometimes, the celebrities themselves won't be the one that calls you. It's
more
than likely going to be.
Although if the celebrities on the set know that the service is available, they just need the support. They just need somebody to be there to talk through the stress they're going through, or they're feeling overwhelmed. They don't always
turn that down.
Exactly. It doesn't always have to be a crisis situation, although that's typically what happens is they'll call you in. Mm-hmm. I think them making it available, I think they would step up and
might avoid some crisis.
There you go. Get the support they need before they get into trouble. Like steer them, redirect them before it they fall off the cliff. Right?
Proactive.
Who's going to take that approach? It's like the EAP program. Well, we're here if you need us, but what happens to get that engaged? Something bad has to happen. So I hear you. And again, there's other kind of more proactive things but
people need to know about you.
Well, they do, because I'm associated with Cindy DeFerdinand, the great Cindy DeFerdinand, you see.
Right.
And because we have we're on LA Talk Radio, which is the largest media market. I mean, they know to call us. I mean, just kidding.
But also Renee is suggesting for us to be proactive so we can give service to the community is to contact the unions, let them know our services are available, and that we can even be on set if we need to be. You know what I mean?
And publicists would love you.
Well, that's true. Publicists, that would be. She's spot on about that would be a big one too.
Publicists want their stars to look good.
Well, again. And again, those are great ideas, and those are something that we can entertain. That certainly we'll talk to anybody who talks to us, but I think those are good points. But man, what a lively discussion. You know what I mean? It really just does underscore, And I know you're a film producer, but wow, just think of the music industry. Just think about Sony or all those artists and certain labels, man. Like, holy cow! You know what I mean? Like,
and the tours, those tours, man, they get no sleep.
That's tough, man.
That's right.
Away from home for a year and a half, and every night in a different city. You don't know where you are.
That's tough, man.
It's crazy.
The stress.
Support like that. And you always hear about these celebrities. When is their crisis, Bruce and Cindy? It's always on tour. It's like, they did this crazy thing and tore up a hotel, and then, it's like it's always on a tour. That's when the stress is the highest, I think, besides having to have a timeline to produce a record or something, to be under the deadline. But tours would be a perfect place where you guys could be with them.
Yeah, and just the sheer exhaustion, as a nutritionist who used to work with celebrities, and they come off a movie set and they have worked so many hours. They are so depleted. They have no energy. They just need to be replenished, Right. And that's not even counting if they have emotional stuff going on. If that's straight the physical side of it.
Just to avoid what is ultimately going to happen, whether they're, mentally okay or not. It's just they're going to be exhausted, like you said, and depleted. I mean, that's a perfect example of where you guys would really be valuable because, besides, the a lot of times there's partying around that they're trying to stay clean. They got to deal with that on their own. And
that's a good point.
On top of the other stress,
temptation everywhere, right?
Yeah, and you would hold them accountable. No, you're not. Like I said, you're not going to go slam dope and smoke crack with 7 hookers. I'm sorry, you can't do that.
Not today.
Yeah.
Maybe
tomorrow if you're good. We'll be
Oh, man. Well, that is...
it really is important what you guys are doing, man.
We so appreciate you saying that. We just really, really appreciate that you actually connect with the value. You certainly connect with the value. And a lot of people don't understand what we're doing it for. There's, both of us grew up in, doing different things, right? Our backgrounds. And, my heart led me to this. And I can't let go of it, because when I hang up the phone with somebody and I know that they've made progress and they've had a breakthrough and they're thanking me for being there for them, there's just nothing like it. You just know you're really being of service, and that's important to me.
Well, that's your calling. Well, you're doing God's work. You've got a plan for everybody, and you're doing it. I think that's great.
Yeah, and Renee, I appreciate your candor, because I think it's real important. It's one thing for Cindy and I, hey, we're life coaches and we're going to talk about what's going on inside these industries. No, you are in the industry. You're telling us and our listeners what goes on, kind of a peek behind the veil. You know what I mean? Like you're there. You know what I mean? Like, we're just disciples. You're an apostle. Like, you were there. you're there.
I had to really tame what I told you. I couldn't tell you a lot of the insanity that I've even been a part of. I'm guilty of feeding their
for sure.
desires to get my film going, because they're threatening to leave every day. Every day I'm like, really? I got to pack your suitcase again? How are you going to quit? Like
Right.
Yeah. Let's talk about, speaking of miracles, let's talk about the LinkedIn miracle that got you and I together, right?
Yeah. How was that?
How was that?
Could you explain that? But I mean, it was like really bizarre how that worked out.
Well, I'll tell the story from my end.
Okay.
So LinkedIn is it's kind of a thing that you have to have in today's world if you have a business or a brand, particularly I think if you're a coach or a therapist or whatever. You just need to have a LinkedIn. It's got to be there. It's got to talk about some of your experience and qualifications and those things. And so, I've been on there for quite a few years now, and I get messages from people and stuff like that. So my messages had kind of stacked up. I was getting these notifications on my phone. This person wants to link up with me. This person wants to link up with me. So, about once a week I check it, just to clear the mail. And there you were on the it's like a Facebook timeline talking about a post,
Yeah, I think we both have a mutual celebrity acquaintance too.
Right.
That kind of hooked us up. I think was it Owen Wilson you saw?
Yeah.
And he's I'm on his friend. He probably wouldn't even remember me. I mean, I wrote, I'm not going to front and pretend, we're pals. No, a lot of times. I mean, I spent a long time with Gary Busey. For a long time, we were very close, and he still forgets. It's Renee, remember the one that had, so they don't remember us all the time as well as we remember them.
And it's really interesting you're saying that, because I think it is more so. So then, think about that. So you look at me, then you and I hook up on Facebook. Hook up meaning we're connected, folks. Don't get too excited.
Right.
Anyway, so we get together on Facebook, and then you say, oh, wow, he knows Owen. And I go, oh, wow. So then because you know who I know a little bit or whatever, it kind of gives you a sense of a little bit more familiarity, theoretically, right?
Yes, I'm not as nervous. Yeah.
Yeah.
It validates you.
Exactly. So it does kind of validate, especially when you get an individual that has that kind of whateverness, you know what I'm saying, behind him or whatever. So that kind of gives me, by the naked eye, if you will, I don't feel more credible because I know him. You know what I'm saying? But
right, but it does,
more credibility.
People don't let you into their, I know what you're saying.
But you're right, and I think what you're saying is, and I think with continued exposure, if Cindy and I have some discussions with publicists and unions and talent and other celebrities, I think, I think we'll be seeing a ton of people in no time. And again, that's not our purpose of the show. Our purpose of the show is to get folks like yourself and other folks with great experiences to share with our listeners, what's going on in their world, you know what I mean, and how coaching applies to their world. And man, your world that you've given us a peek into is
There's a need. There's a need.
Great. Yeah, an underserved population, grossly underserved population.
I could see where you guys would make so much an impact in every area. Like, I can think back to producing, and, I'm mom on the set. Like, I am everybody's mom that fixes everything on a set.
I love that.
I'm not one of those people that treats my PA different than my assistant director, because every part of that body is important. I get really angry when my crew acts arrogant because they're higher up on the food chain and they treat an extra badly. I had a lady in Arizona, she brought 2 of her twins in her own outfit and was willing to work as an extra in 110 degrees with her 2 children. And I went over there and brought her Gatorade. They're like, producer's not supposed to wait on some lowly extra. And I just lost it on the kid.
Lowly.
I'm like, you better, because you're going to fall hard, get a nosebleed with your nose up in the air like that. It's like, this is supposed to be a crew. And I think people need to see each other of their value to each other, and how it doesn't matter if you're higher up or doing this or whatever. It's all necessary part of the machine. If there was no extras, the film would look realistic. They're absolutely necessary, and so I get really upset about that. And I can see where you guys could have come in and just, even if you weren't doing like a specific celebrity, okay, or a specific producer, you could come in and actually prep a crew with good coaching experience. You could come in and speak to the entire crew.
Wow.
And say, this is how you get yourself, because you're going to be working 16, 18-hour days. You're going to be exhausted. You guys need to get along and stick together and get your priorities right.
Right.
That is huge, dude.
Yeah, we do some coaching training with, like, it's not all about getting certified as a coach. We can go in and train on how to use coaching, just in setting boundaries or communicating to really benefit people and groups. Actually,
sure.
I just had somebody talk to me about that. They're going to put me in touch with somebody. Bruce, I forgot to tell you about it. But
that's almost
interesting
like
company.
Therapy. This is almost like you're saying.
It is family therapy.
Let's say this is the crew for Narcos. It's going to be an 18-week shoot. We're on location, and we all got to get to the whole cast and crew.
Crew's our family.
You can't have a dysfunctional family. It doesn't.
No, you can't. And I've had it. I've had it. I'm mom. I got one guy calling my German AD a Nazi, and then I got
God.
a bunch of kids, fighting each other, and it's all everybody wants. We had this joke with a T-shirt, and it had what their real job was, but next to it said, "But I'm really this. I'm the script supervisor, but I'm really a writer."
But
it's everybody.
I love that. I love that.
Have you ever seen that, Renee, where there was a crew and there was some sort of a coachy person there? Are you thinking that's just something?
No, I've never heard of that being done. I think that would be a great idea. I just thought of that.
Oh my gosh. That is a great idea.
Well, that's because you're on set to serve all. So it's it's
maybe you guys could come help me on my new one, because we're going to be stressed out.
We would love to do that. Something I was thinking about, sometimes it's almost like that spot check. Somebody needs that coaching session. They don't need 6 months. They don't need 9 months, 3 months. They need right here, right now. They need somebody to get them through, and they're okay. They just need that 1 hour conversation. And I get what you're saying. It's like being, I guess you could say, the head psychologist in a big corporation where you're available,
Get everybody on the same page, and then, like we always say, we got to be making the same movie. The producer's got to be making a comedy, and so does the director. If the director thinks it's a horror / comedy, we're not going to be working. You got to get everybody doing the same vision.
Yeah, I call that in business. Everybody needs to be telling the same story. If you got him telling one story and she tells another, and it just doesn't work. It's disconnected. So
you got to communicate that you're all doing the same thing with the same thing in mind.
Exactly.
That would help.
That is, man. I think you. Man,
that's a fabulous idea, Renee.
Well,
you're just an idea. You're just an idea girl.
That's a big one. That's a big fish there, dude. I like that because it has broad-based appeal. The effectiveness can influence a whole crew, and really, it just.
And then the stars know you're available.
Yeah, that's boy, that's a bell ringer there. So thanks.
If they get stressed out, they can go, hey, what about those two coaches that were here talking to the crew? You know, they would have that.
And what would you call it, like crew coaching or shoot? I mean, think of a title for it, like that's entertainment.
On location coaching, where you go in and you talk to the group. Yeah. They get familiar with what you're doing. You teach them about what coaching is. They get a level of trust for you, and then if they're in need, you can always do schedule them on the phone too.
Like a crew vision coach, a vision coach, so everybody can have the same vision on that. Would be cool.
Right, and then you can be available. The phone is a great resource. Most of coaching's done over the phone. That one-on-one.
But I see her point about being on site, though, right? Being on the site, right?
Yeah.
I think it definitely initially, so they get to know you. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
that's
think
amazing.
It'd be worth it, man, to spend that money to know your crew is going to function good, and if you got people on the side in case something does come up, some kind of crisis,
fabulous.
The producer doesn't have to handle it all by her lonesome self.
Right.
I mean, I'm lucky. I have a great production partner. And, really good people and a good director. I worked with James Hickox before with Tippi Hedren. We had a movie that Tippi starred in with Zach Galligan and Brad Dourif and Michael Wirth. It was a great little movie. But it ended up getting, one of my investors died, and so it got caught up in distributors and craziness, and people couldn't find the original film, and it got a little crazy. But we have some really good people.
That's great.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So yes, let's have a shout out to Jennifer Aniston or any of people like that listening to the show. We need some female leads.
Oh, thank you. Yes,
I do.
We'll
for Off the Leash.
For all of our...
Oh yeah, it's really cute, man. It's a little it's salty. There you go. I liked you guys using that word. It's sardonic. And, it really is the tale of the two friends more than anything. I mean, it's set against the backdrop of, a comedic, adventure. But it really is the growing of a friendship of people that appear to have absolutely nothing in common.
Nice.
And it would be a great role. Either of the roles for the female leads would be great. And it's not a super big budget, but I have a really nice size distribution company. They're the ones that distributed Black Mass with Johnny Depp.
Good.
All right.
Remember the Whitey Bulger story?
Yep.
And, they're relatively new, but we're already funded and everything. And,
awesome.
We're willing to work around somebody's schedule. So, yeah, if there's any agents that have some names, and we need names for the leads because our distributor has to, approve them. Of course, we have to make money. So, that's why.
And that was an interesting point that it's usually the male star that carries the film on, you know what I mean, and not the female. That was an interesting point.
Yeah, it used to be that a female couldn't carry it at all. But lately, with these buddy movies, like with Melissa, what's her name? McCarthy, is that her name?
Yes.
Yeah.
A comedian. And, all of these ensemble, like Tina Fey movies, they've done really well, and that's starting to come around. But the lead villain we have, it needs to be a really nice size male lead, a male name, because they honestly in the foreign market they really do look for what the male lead is.
Exactly.
It is coming around though.
It is. We're out of time, so here we go.
Oh, yes. All right.
Renee, thank you so much. You're such a pleasure to have on today. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed speaking with you guys.
It was fun. Thank you.
And look, everybody, you can go to the Concierge Coaches page on LA Talk Radio under the Concierge Coaches, and you can find the podcast here in a few hours. Also, folks, we are on iTunes now and Google Play. You can get this episode for free off of iTunes because we graciously are giving it to our listeners. So you can go back and listen to some of the gems and such that we discussed today on the show. So, and again, I can be reached at conciergecoach.net. And Cindy, what's your information?
Reach out by phone, 714-943-6206 and wisdomfoods.com. And Renee, do you want to put a contact number out there if anybody?
Sure. They can contact me by email. It's Roland Real Pics, ROLANDREELPIX @gmail.com. So it's like real, like a film reel.
Got it.
Pics as in pictures. Roland Real Pics @gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, sounds great, everybody.
Thank you guys so much. God bless you.
Thank you, Renee.
Thank you for having me.
Too.
Take care.
You're welcome.
Take
All
care.
right, so until next week, we got another exciting show, so you don't want to miss out, everybody, here on LA Talk Radio on the Concierge Coaches Show. Have a great week, everybody.